welcome to another episode of Expedition Marriage. I am Chris with my lovely bride, Jamie, and we are so glad that you joined us today, that you are here, and we're hoping that we can help to breathe some hope and some encouragement into your life and into your marriage today.
Yeah, because here's one of the things we hear a lot, and I think you have probably heard this from friends, online, wherever. It's a line that I think everybody has heard when it comes to marriage, and it's that we just fell out of love. Yes. You have the soundtrack today. Yeah, and so it is a common problem that couples have.
Okay, I'll stop. I'm sorry. This is a serious topic. This is a serious topic.
It is a serious topic.
And I'm because look, I actually, in one of the reasons why I'm kind of rubbed wrong, I hate hearing that term. We fell out of love. How do you fall out of love? It's not a gondola. It's not it's almost like we fell in love. So we fell into this hole, and then how suddenly we fell out of the hole. I don't understand that and what people are trying to mean by that. And honestly, I think if you say that, I don't know if you want to know what you mean by that.
Yeah. Well, even the term when you say we fell in love, I mean, even that, like, you didn't just fall in love. You dated, you had a process, you learned about one another, you developed love.
Yeah.
Is what you did. We don't just fall into it. Right. And this idea of falling out, that just means, boom, I'm done. I don't love you. Don't know what happened.
It's like tripping.
Right. But what happens, regardless, there are couples who are no longer in love.
Yeah.
And it might just be one of you, and it might be both of you. And that's an issue. Yeah. You know, not being in love when you're married, that's problematic.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely, it's not the situation you want to be in.
Right. And this is important, and this is actually good news, because you didn't fall out of love. What happened is you developed daily bad marriage habits. You disconnected. Maybe you quit talking. You did things that got you to the place of losing that love. Yeah. And why that is good news is because that means you can do things to rekindle that love again.
Well, I was thinking, it's not that so much that we tend not to see that people fell out of love. We tend to see people that their love kind of gets covered up by junk.
Yes.
And I don't want to say smothered. That seems to be
well, people can relate with that.
Right. Well, I mean, that's one thing that resentment does. It just starts to do a weight that just starts to crush the life, the breath out of relationship. And so that after a while, it feels like there's not really much there, but majority of the time, it's underneath. We just we have to uncover some of that. We have to let off some of that weight, and then start to show some of that shiny love again, and remind you that it's there.
Yeah, no, that is such a great point. I love that. And like resentment, one of the quickest ways to have resentment in your marriage is to not be honest with your spouse, to not share with them how you're feeling, to withhold from them, to, like, you fell in the people-pleasing trap, that passive trap. When you're not speaking about things that are hurting you or that you're concerned about, if you're not sharing and you're just giving your spouse the win all the time and they're always getting their way, that is one of the fastest ways to develop resentment. And resentment will pile on top of love and start smothering it. When you're avoiding issues in your marriage, that starts smothering your love, because all of a sudden your focus is on all the problems and on all the lack. And the more you focus on that, the bigger they get, the more magnified the issues are, and the problem is, and the lack of love is, and the smaller that little flame of love gets.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. We've said this before. Whatever we focus on, we make larger. So if you're focusing on all the negative stuff and all the problems and all that, they will become insurmountable.
Yeah, and that's easy to do. And it's not saying, oh, you have a negative mindset and all that. No, pain does that. Pain has a way of, pain screams louder.
Right. Oh, yeah. It says, we were hurt this way. Let's not get hurt that way again. Better watch out for it.
Right. And so you're on high alert
Better keep
for
a keen
anything
eye.
painful. Yeah. So if this is you, if you're in a marriage where you're like, you know what, I don't think I love my husband. I don't think I love my wife anymore. Or you're both like, it's just lukewarm,
Hmm.
mediocre. There's
Very
no
hopeless.
spark there. Then this is the episode for you, because we're also going to tell you things you can do. And one of the
Yeah, I was just thinking, or if you have friends that you know that they're at, would be loving to send it over to them, but also it might be felt as an insult a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you know what?
but it's loving.
We need to start insulting one another
We need to
for
get
the sake of our
we
marriages
need to
and
get
for the sake of truth.
we need to meddle in each other's lives for
Yes.
good things, for good.
Yeah, we do.
Hmm.
We do. So forward this episode if you know somebody who could use it. But one of the things you want to start with is just take time to reflect,
Hmm.
because whether you feel it now or not, you're next to somebody who you did at one point love a lot.
Hmm.
So much so that you used to be excited to spend your life with this person.
Yeah.
You were counting down days until a wedding.
Hmm.
You were excited, you were looking forward to that moment. And so think about that and ask yourself, why? What did I love about my
Hmm.
husband? What did I love about my wife?
Sure. Yeah. One of the things that you saw were strengths. Because
Right.
so many times
Right.
those things that attracted to us as our strengths that later on turn into, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, you're so steady, you're so stable, you have no emotions,
You're
you,
controlling.
you have no passion.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, you're controlling. Everything has to
Yeah.
be on your timetable and your schedule. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I mean, I remember that with us. I loved how like free spirited and spontaneous you were,
Hmm.
because I'm highly structured, almost like too much so that it was like controlling
Hmm.
in my life. And I loved like, oh, I could just go with the flow with you. Well, when you get married in a few years, it's like, oh my goodness, can you make a plan? Can we do something that I'm not blindsided by on
Yeah.
occasion?
Is there something that do I always have to be the one making the plans? Can you ever step in, and can you ever, you can decide where we go to eat sometimes,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so true. So
Hmm.
taking that time to look back and go, you know what? There was a point where we saw these differences
Hmm.
as great strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And an issue that will happen. We'll get into rhythms, and usually
Hmm.
for good reason. We'll do something that will become a rhythm. Maybe it's because there's a newborn baby, and so
Mm,
we're having to deal with sleep and who stays up and who says
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And so you start to develop a pattern. But a lot of times those rhythms will change into ruts.
Yeah.
And when that
Mm,
happens, when we keep doing the same things, but it's no longer serving the same purpose. And
yeah.
in fact, then at that point, it's usually working against us.
Yeah.
Right. So that idea of, I'm just going to expand on that idea. So that it's like, well, I always get up with the kids, even
Hmm.
though they're 3, 4, 5 years old now, and you always sleep through.
Hmm.
Well, you know what? You're not nursing, Dad. Get up and help out
Yeah.
your kid who had a nightmare at 4 o'clock. It's okay.
Right.
We know that you have
Right.
to work in the morning, but you'll be okay, and it's probably going to be a
Hmm.
good thing for your child to feel that man presence when they're feeling unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah. And now that you're talking about kids as well,
Hmm.
that's one of the things, the accidental ruts we can find
Mm-hmm.
ourselves in
Sure.
is kids are demanding. Kids are demanding.
Yeah.
They will take a lot of your focus. They take a lot of your time, your
Hmm.
energy, your focus. They soak up your love the most. And
Hmm.
accidentally, because if you're not being intentional, these things happen. It begins to be like a slow fade in your marriage where all of your focus is on doting on your children, loving your children, taking care of your children, meeting their needs, and you forget that you're even married.
Hmm.
And if you have one spouse that does that, the other spouse may feel it and just just withdraw.
Yep.
And now they're not even connecting with the kids because you know what? They're your kids. I don't even have a
I
say.
can't compete with these little cuddly things.
Right,
Hmm.
right. And now there's this massive distance. And that's where you go, oh, we fell. We fell out of love.
Oops.
No, you didn't. It's something that happened over time
Yeah.
because of behaviors.
Hmm.
And then even those differences we had that we used to view as strengths, they do become the things that drive us nuts. And a
Hmm.
helpful tool for that, because that's a big issue, is we have another episode called Help, My Spouse's Flaws Drive Me Nuts. Great perspective
Yeah,
changer in that
absolutely.
episode. We will link
Yeah.
that in our show notes because these are things that happen from repeated behaviors
Hmm.
over and over again. You're not just waking up one day going, "Oh, I'm out of love."
No, not at all. I say this a lot because I think it's impactful. We
Mhm.
get good at what we practice.
Mhm.
We just tend to practice the wrong things
Yeah.
and get really, really good at them. So
Yes.
it's time to stop practicing those things and practice better things. So one of those better things we can start
Hmm.
practicing is we can start discussing some of
Yeah.
these struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, are you sharing? Or has all the conversations, just sticking with that kid idea, are all the conversations about the children,
Yeah.
about, or if they're, even if you don't have kids, is it just about schedules? Is it about where you're going to be and when you're going to
Hmm.
be there, and timetables and the weather, so to speak? And you're never really talking about real things.
Yeah, and when you're talking about that, I'm thinking when they even start discussing the struggles that you
Hmm.
have, talk about the problems because avoidance creates resentment
Oh yeah,
for sure.
both sides.
But when you're talking about the struggles, it's not just
Hmm.
being willing to talk about the problems, but it's also how you talk about
Hmm.
problems because one of you may be saying,
Very
I've
important.
told them all the time, I tell them all the time. But will
Hmm.
you share, because you're good at sharing about this, like the difference between criticism and complaining?
Oh yeah, no.
Because criticism will make your spouse be on the defensive immediately and shut
Hmm.
them down. And that might be a reason why anything you're sharing is falling on deaf
Yeah,
ears.
absolutely. Because you can complain.
Hmm.
It's okay to complain. Look, honey, you
I
love.
do it all the time.
It's that idea.
Mhm.
You didn't rinse out your oatmeal bowl, and now I'm going to need a jackhammer to get that oatmeal out. Or we just need to throw it away.
Yeah.
We were so it's that's you could complain, right? Something
Mhm.
that we need to address things. We
Yeah.
need to correct things, that kind of thing. Criticism is when it gets personal.
Mm.
You didn't rinse out your oatmeal bowl again.
Mhm.
You're never doing that. What's wrong? The
You
messages are, yeah, you're
always
always doing.
mhm.
They're, what's wrong with you? How were you raised?
What were
Who
you
raised you?
thinking?
What were you thinking? What's right? There's something that's a deficit. There's
Mhm.
something that's a problem with you in the way that in the messaging. Now you might not be thinking that when you're saying that,
No.
but
No, and you're saying it from a place of pain.
yeah,
You're
absolutely,
frustrated, you're hurt,
yeah,
you're
yeah. How
desperate.
could you not see that needed to be picked up?
Right.
But the messaging, unfortunately, on the other side, it isn't that, hey, I need help, that for you to be looking around and helping me out without me
Mhm.
asking. Then what's heard is, how are you so inept? How are
Mm.
you inadequate that you
Yeah.
are incapable of doing these things?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think that's anything that's that we're starting off with.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we don't get there, but that's not probably the
Yeah, we
start.
let a lot of those things slide in the beginning.
Hmm.
We're like, like, fine, I can take care of the oatmeal bowl. I can do all
Yeah.
this. But over time, when life gets busier, things get more demanding, those things become more noticeable. And we tend to share the issues out of a place of frustration
Mm-hmm.
instead of out of a place of resolution.
Yeah.
Of, hey, babe, I don't have time in my mornings to do this. Could you please at least rinse out your bowl so I
Yeah.
don't have to do this? It becomes with, why do you always do this?
Yeah.
You're never helping. You don't ever do anything to
Yeah, you
help.
don't care about
Mhm.
me. You don't care that I'm inconvenienced or I have to go through these problems, and that's why you're doing it. Because if you cared about me, then you would do what I asked you to do, or
Right.
you would be thoughtful about this. So we personalize a lot of this, and then that's where the criticism, I think, tends to come out of, instead of us
Mhm.
just going, "Hey, look, help me out here."
Yeah.
Help me help you. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, look, if you want to listen to boundaries, episode, we have episodes about boundaries, but in simple boundaries of that is, well, don't leave the oatmeal all stuck in there.
Mhm.
Next time they go for an oatmeal bowl and it's got oatmeal stuck in there, it's like, well, this has oatmeal stuck
Did
on
it to
there. Yeah,
yourself.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it
Yeah,
does.
and the struggle with communicating properly, not from a place of frustration,
Mhm.
is that it requires vulnerability.
Mm, yeah,
It requires you saying, I have this need. I need your help in
yeah,
this, or this is really hurting me or bothering me. And when you communicate that vulnerably and you remove the anger and the frustration, you're really kind of setting yourself up to be disappointed and hurt again.
yeah, sure.
Because I can share my heart and say, this is really a struggle for me. And this is
Hmm.
beyond the oatmeal bowl,
Oh yeah,
obviously,
obviously.
but it really is a struggle for me.
Hmm.
And then if I've shared that vulnerably and you still don't, it's painful.
Right.
And so that potential outcome will keep me from sharing.
Yeah. Then it's no longer about the symptom of the oatmeal bowl. It's about
Hmm.
the issue about how much you care about me, and
Right.
how important I am to you.
Right. And we also, when we're frustrated with things and we have issues, we tend to use our mouths more than we use our ears.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because I know for myself, like, it's way more
Mm-hmm.
important for me to drill it into you why what you're doing is a problem than it is for me to go, but let me hear your side.
Yeah.
Let me hear why. Because even as
Mm-hmm.
simple as oatmeal bowl, it's like, babe, I'm sorry, I'm just rushing out the door, and I'm just trying to eat last minute, and I don't have time, and then I come home and I forget all about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Or
not willing to listen to that. I just want to demand you to rinse out that bowl.
yeah, because let's be honest, and not just you, it's just anybody. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times, because we get so stressed about all the other tasks we have and all the other things,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the times we try to train our spouse
Yeah.
to not inconvenience us in those ways again.
Yeah, and then we get mad at them
Mm-hmm.
when they're not being properly trained by us,
Right.
which is something we should not be doing
Which
in the
that,
first
that's probably should
place.
be a whole other episode that we
Oh,
could talk about just that
yeah.
laying on the horn and all that. But
Yeah.
so when we're talking, you know what? Here's a way to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
Be curious.
Yeah.
When you're having a conversation, be curious. Try to see it from their side. Try
Yeah.
to see, like you were saying, see, okay, where are you coming from? And try not to defend yourself.
Yeah.
When the other person goes, well, because you'll do this, don't. Well, I only do this. No.
Yeah.
Just okay. So you're saying that this is what happens, and so you
Mm-hmm.
think that I'm gonna like get all on you for that, and that's why that's why you worried about that and forgot about
Mm-hmm.
this. And okay, all right, so that helps me out. And then now, how can we kind of
Yeah.
because if you get defensive, you're gonna shut it down.
Yeah.
And if you're wanting the conversation, you do things to help the conversation.
Right. Make yourself approachable. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of those things, like a quick tip for doing that well is when you're upset about something and you want to share it with your spouse, before you do it, develop that mindset. Before you share, go, okay, I need to remember to listen. I need to remember to
Mm-hmm.
share and to listen.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to help. And that's also what's going to create that emotional intimacy as well. When you begin to learn to share openly, honestly, and
Yeah.
vulnerably with one another, and you listen and your spouse feels heard, you're going to develop that emotional intimacy. And
Yeah.
outside of the issues, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but we actually have a course. It's a
Mm-hmm.
4-week plan. It's called Restoring Connection. And it is a great way. It's conversation starters. It's video teaching from us.
Mm-hmm.
Very affordable. We'll actually put the link and a discount code in the show notes. But it's a way to practice outside of the conflict.
Yeah.
And to create that emotional intimacy. Because when you have that connection, it gets much easier to share the problems because you're now feeling safer
Yeah.
with your spouse.
We can walk into deeper conversations, deeper
Mhm.
waters, and not think that the other person's going to all of a sudden. We don't have to walk on eggshells.
Right.
I guess is a good way to
Right.
put that.
Right. And so go grab that course if that's something you need to work on in your marriage. But if you want to restore that love again, you're going to have to also learn how to be a good forgiver.
Mm-hmm.
And something our pastor has said is that this is a chalkboard moment. And that means you erase everything on there. We're not looking back at all the junk. We're wiping the chalkboard clean, and we're starting fresh right now.
Yeah.
Because you can't make new things. You're not going to be able to read something you're writing on top of a covered chalkboard.
Great point.
And so
Yeah.
erase it clean and go, you know what, from this moment now,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have a fresh start. You can't drag around all the flaws of your spouse and all the lack and all that and everything you're stewing on and move forward. You're not going to run your race if you don't put down the baggage. If you don't
Yeah.
put down what's weighing you down, you cannot run ahead.
Cast off all the hindrances.
That's right. That's right. And if you're doing these things and you're still not getting to where you need to be, get help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are professionals. We're available for that type
We're
of coaching and
professionals, yeah.
helping, and get the help that you need. There are courses, there are resources, there's professional and pastoral counseling.
Yeah, absolutely.
But don't feel as if you can't move forward.
No, it's possible to move forward. You just look. We've got to have our goals in mind. What is it
Yeah.
that we want? Because
Mhm.
most of the time, you're going to find out that both of you really want most of the big things together.
Yeah, and we end up focusing on what I don't want. Here,
Yeah.
let me tell you, let me dump out the bucket of the whole list of everything I don't want.
Right.
And it's like, well, what do you want? And half the time it's like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Or it's very generic. I just want to
Yeah.
love you. I just want you to love
Yeah,
me.
and if you don't know what you want, then it's really hard for you to share with your spouse what you want, right?
Yeah.
You just need to know what I want, even though I don't know.
Yeah.
So spend some time if you need to. Think about what it is that your
Mhm.
goals are. So that way you can start to share them with each other and start to work towards
Yeah.
them. Start to have a plan that's because look, if when you start to have a purpose,
Mm.
yeah, and that you're going towards, and I forget the verse, but it's like striving forward in that
Mhm.
race where we throw off the hindrances.
Mhm.
And
In
this is in
Hebrews.
the Hebrews, it's the
Mhm.
race for Jesus. But that's the principles, that concept that if we're in a race, we're pushing forward, and we're able to let that other
And
stuff
you
kind
know
of
what you're
fall
running
off
towards.
because you know what you're running towards. You
Mhm.
know what the prize is at the end. You know what the
Mhm.
thing is, and so you have that purpose. It really helps you makes your couple be more single minded,
Yeah.
and that actually is something that we do in
Mhm.
our weekend reboots, our marriage intensives, where we do work with couples to
Yeah,
help
we invite
develop.
you into our
Yeah,
home.
that's true. In our
Mhm.
home, we feed you good stuff, and and work 2 days for the weekend to figure out what's some vision, what's
Yeah.
your purpose, and make plans to accomplish that in your
Yeah.
marriage and other aspects of your life that can cause these issues.
Mhm.
And how can you work forward together as a team
Mhm.
focused on your marriage's purpose, that your marriage has been purposed. So you just those things are the ideas of ways to engage each other.
Yeah.
Trust God through this, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and this is one of my favorite verses. I love this. It's Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it
Mm-hmm.
springs up. Do you not perceive it?
Yeah.
I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland."
Mm-hmm.
And so many times God is going, "Look, marriage is good. This is a good thing. Why do you not get this? Do you not see this?" And the answer is no, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm focused on everything negative,
Mm.
because I'm afraid, because I'm scared that we've lost our love. I'm scared we're not going to be able to make this. Whatever it is, and we're not remembering that we're dealing with the creator of the universe.
Mm. Mm.
His words spoke this world into creation.
Yeah.
We forget that we serve a God who brings dead things to life,
Mm.
who makes new things out
Yeah.
of old, where the things have passed away and we can become a new creation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the God that we serve. He makes streams in the wasteland. And so the most important thing you can do is have that hope and really believe that you're not in a hopeless situation because you serve a God that creates new. He was a
Amen.
creator when he spoke the world into creation, and he is still a creator today. That is who he is. And so when you believe that God can take your dead marriage, your loveless marriage, and bring it back to life, that is when you can truly
Enjoy the journey.